Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, going through a series of videos where I'm going through the PowerPoint presentations for the textbook Murox HTML5 and CSS3 4th edition for the Rankin Technical College AWD Application Web Development 1000 Web Development Technologies class. So far I've gone over Introduction to Web Development, so it's time to get into how to code, test, and validate a web page. Now remember, as I'm going through these lectures will be, for lack of better words, many-fold. In other words, I'm going to go through all of the PowerPoints for the HTML and CSS book. Then I'm going to go through all the PowerPoints for the JavaScript and jQuery book. Then I'm going to come back and build a website that's going to incorporate or encompass all of the material as much as I possibly can. All right, and when I'm going through and building the website, I will have the actual book open so we can go through things at that time. So, Chapter 2, how to code, test, and validate a web page. Remember, as we go through these and we get to a page like this, I'm not going to read this to you. All right, we will, in this chapter, validate both an HTML file and a CSS file. All right, they'll both be very simple in nature. We'll go over some of the major HTML components and some of the major components in CSS as well. So here is the basic structure of an HTML5 document. Let me just tell you, when I create my documents, and it's not a big thing, this is called a Doctype Declaration. It used to be a lot bigger than it was, but since the advent of HTML5, it's gotten a lot smaller. When I create mine, I make the word Doctype in lowercase. I like everything here in lowercase. Quite often you see just the Doctype statement in uppercase, as is shown here, and everything else is in lowercase as far as your tags go. All right? So what I'm going to do, for right now, I'll just keep it in Notepad++. So I'm going to come in here and do a Doctype HTML, which basically tells the system what we're using is HTML5. All right, an HTML tag, a head tag, beginning and end, a body tag, beginning and end, and an ending HTML tag. I believe that's everything that they've shown here. And you can see that indeed it is. All right. Now I will add a little bit to this as we go along here. Not real much, but a little bit, because we're just starting. So here is an example of what they have. So let's talk about what's in here. All right. The first thing that's shown here, I'll bring mine up as well, is HTML, and they say lang equals English. Lang is what's called an attribute. It's something you can add to an HTML tag, and it's telling them that the language we're using is English, which is totally fine. I believe it's the default anyway, but it never hurts to put that in. Then under our head section, we're going to put in this meta tag. Meta means, a meta tag is a tag that's got information about the document. And it says that the character set we're going to use is UTF-8. For lack of better words for now, just remember that what it means is that we're using the Unicode character set. Then we've got a title, and it's San Joaquin Valley Town Hall. The title serves quite a few purposes. First of all, when we go and run the actual file, which we'll do in a minute, the title will appear up here in our status bar. All right. Also, when you go and when someone bookmarks your document, typically it'll be the title that gets bookmarked, and the bookmark, or up here, the title tag is also used by what's referred to as search engine optimization. All right. So then in our body, they have what? They have an H1 tag here. We're going to learn about all this stuff. San Joaquin Valley Town Hall, and our ending H1 tag. Then we've got a P tag, P for paragraph. Whoops. No, that happened. But let's move this over just a tad here. So we'll put in this paragraph tag and put in exactly what they show here. Welcome to San Joaquin Valley Town Hall. So I'm just going to grab that from up here. I don't like it when students have to sit and watch me type. I think it's a waste of their time. So I'm going to try to keep this to a minimum. We have some amazing speakers in store for you. We'll break it up like they do. This season, now, what I just did was to duplicate what they put in there, a little bigger, and I'm going to save it right to my desktop, and I'm going to save it as index.html, which is a name you oftentimes use. All right. Now I'm going to take this and run it by clicking Run and choosing Chrome, and that's what we have right now. This was our H1 tag. This was our first paragraph tag. This was our second paragraph tag. This was our third paragraph tag, which also has a hyperlink in it. Now, I don't have a file called speakers.html, so if I click on this, I'm going to get an error. It'll tell me my file was not found because it doesn't exist. So let's look at what I have here. Cut this way, way down. And then go back to our book or our slides and see what they have in the slides. All right. It says 2 elements with opening and closing tags. Those are the H1 elements. There's the opening tag. There's the closing. Opening and closing. All right. 2 empty tags. There's a BR tag and there's an image tag. So they've got open tags but no closed tags. If you nest tags, if you put tags within tags, this is correct. Notice the P's are on the outside, the I's are on the inside. Here we've got a P on the outside and the I and an I on the outside. No, you don't do that. You always nest tags within tags. Here's an opening tag with 1 attribute. I already showed you that. But it's possible to have a tag with multiple attributes. And there's an example. Again, we're going to go through all of this stuff as we go on in here. There's an empty tag, the image tag, with attributes. Okay? Here is a Boolean attribute. Boolean means true or false. So in this case, we're going to have a checkbox that's going to be named namelist, and it'll automatically be checked. All right, if we left it off, it would not. If we left that word in yellow off, it would not be checked. All right. As we go on, we're going to use a lot IDs and classes. And you can see them here in yellow. Again, please be cognizant of the fact that right now we're just getting started. As I oftentimes tell my students, you can't solve world hunger overnight. So we're just being introduced here. Comments in HTML start with a less than sign, an exclamation point, dash, dash. They can be multiple lines or a single line, but they must end with dash, dash with a greater than sign. When we work with CSS, okay, we're going to put in this, exactly what they show right here. And there's 2 ways that we can do this. We can create our own CSS file, or I could put it right in that HTML file. All right, I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to say this in here, H1 color navy, which is what they did. Now I'm going to save this, And I'm going to save it right where I've got my index.html file saved, which is on the desktop, but this one is going to be called style.css. All right? The problem is this particular program right here has no idea that style.css file exists. So it still looks exactly the same way it did. So we have to let it know that exists, because in our head tag we put in link. So we're going to link to a file. Rel equals style sheet. We're letting the system know it's a style sheet. All right. href, our reference to it is style.css. And we end. It's another opening tag that does not have a closing tag. But now look, if you would please. After putting in that line, let's see if anything happens when I refresh the screen by clicking that to our San Joaquin Valley Town Hall. Kind of hard to tell, but it's now blue. If you say, I can't tell, well then let's make it a different color. Let's make it red. Now it's a little bit easier to tell. All right, and what we put into that file right here, what we put into this file is shown right here. The H1 is what's called a selector. Color is a property. Navy is a value. It's a declaration, so it ends, even if there's just one of these, with a semicolon. Notice if I came in here and I said background, and I'll say here yellow. All right, I'm putting in something that's not even shown here. Is that going to change anything? Well, now we've got a yellow background on here. All right, these are all things that we're going to go over in a lot of detail as we go on. All right, there is an example of a CSS document, and then they put comments. You'll notice that the comments in a CSS document are not the same as the comments in an HTML document. Here they start with a /* and they end with a //. All right, we're going to again get into classes. We're going to get into IDs. All right, so let's put a couple of those in there just so you can see them in action. All right, so let's go to our HTML file here. And let's take the first paragraph and let's give that an ID equals, we'll call it pink para. You'll see why in just a minute. All right, and then let's go to this last paragraph right here. And let's give it, we'll give it an ID. In fact, we'll give it a class. And we'll say class equals yellowback. In fact, we're going to do the same thing right here with our H1. We're going to say class equals yellowback. These are bad names, just so you know, but I want you to understand what's going on here. Now, I'm going to get rid of this background yellow tag that's right here. Why? Because I'm going to create a class, starts with a dot, yellowback, and I'm going to say if we've got a yellowback, then our background color, so we can write either background or background dash color is going to be yellow. And we also had an ID which starts with a £. We called it pink para. And we're going to say there the color will be pink. So if I did this right, our H1 will naturally have its text will be red. The one paragraph that we put in there and our H1 will have a background color of yellow, and the other paragraph that we gave an ID to a pink para will have a color of pink. So pink para, yellowback, and H1. Yellowback, pink para, and yellowback. So let's save that. We'll go back to our file and we'll refresh. And you'll notice yellowback here, pink para here. These are the magical, so to speak, things that we're able to do here. All right. Now they talk about brackets in here, and again, I'm not going to go into that yet. Brackets is an editor that you can use for your work. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code as we get going in here. All right. So again, I'm not going to go into the bracket stuff that's in here. All right. Common errors that you make with HTML. Opening a tag and not putting in a closing tag. Misspelling tag names and attribute names. Putting in quotes, a beginning quote, not an ending quote. Typically, when you put in quotes, they can be single quotes or double quotes. All right. Referencing a file that does not exist. Common CSS errors, putting in an open curly brace and not a closing. Forgetting your semicolons. Misspellings again. IDs and class names that don't match. Let's look at that one. If you remember, I call this pink para originally in here. See that without a big P? Let's see if that changed anything. Notice our paragraph is no longer pink. Here we refer to it as pink para with a little p for the para, but in here we called it a big P. Now if I could go and change that back to a little p and then come back to my document, this should be pink again. And it is. I didn't want that. I wanted this P to be big. Save that. And I wanted this P to be big. And again, I come back here, and it should still be pink because the two are the same. All right. Three ways to run a web page that's on an intranet or on your computer. I basically showed you one of them, and that is what I did. In fact, I'm going to show you two of them right now. One of them is if I've got the file right here like this, I can click Run and tell it the browser I want it to run in. So for instance, there it is in Firefox. All right. The other thing that I can do, that I can show you right now, is that I can come in here, go up to the file, my index file, and there it is, my index file, just double click on it, and that brings it up as well. How to rerun, I've shown you that as well, and that is you come back up and you click the button up here. Notice if I put my mouse over it, I get a tooltip that says reload this page. Just click it and boom, the page reloads. Testing and debugging is basically what I've been showing you for this entire thing. Let's go and validate both of these pages. All right, we're going to validate first the HTML page and then the CSS page. There are different validators you can use. All right, but the one I'm going to use is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to literally just type in W3C HTML Validator. Let the system find it for me. There it is at https://validator.w3.org/. Here it is. The easiest way, in my humble opinion, to do this is I click Validate by Direct Input. Then I go and I paste my file in there. Control-A, Control-C. I paste it in. I click Check. Green is always good. Document completed, no errors or warnings to show. Notice as an example, if I came back to my document and I commented out this line, so now I don't have a doctype statement in there. And then I come back here. All right, I'm not going to reload it. I'm just going to put this into comments also. There. So now I check. If I check it, now I get an error. It says it didn't find a doc type that it was looking for. You should always, when you get done writing pages like this, go back and run them through the validator and make sure that they come up green like this. As far as my CSS, Now I'm going to type in CSS Validator, and it's under something called jigsaw.w3.org. So if I click on that, now I'm going to come in and grab my CSS file, and I'm going to paste that in by direct input and check. And notice, congratulations, no errors found. Let's put in an error. All right, so we've got color red. I'm going to put in here color rad instead of red. I'm purposely put in an error. Click check. Sorry, we found an error. All right. Now, it says here valid information, but what it's telling us is, hey, it's somewhere in there. We found this. Rad is not a color. This was valid. This is not valid. So I come back again and change my rad back to red, and boom, it works again. All right, so I showed you very quickly how you can validate both a CSS document and an HTML document. Okay, that's it for this chapter. I will come back momentarily, and when I do, I'm going to go over Chapter 3, and Chapter 3 is on how to use HTML to structure a web page. So I'll be back with that presentation shortly.